It was showdown at Suzuka, and we've got the highlights now from today's Japanese Grand Prix.
It's the first of Formula One's Far East fixtures, round 16 of the championship from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. Hello there, good evening. Welcome to our review of today's Japanese Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher leading Mika Häkkinen by 8 points, just 2 races to go. No surprise at all then, they are the only major players in qualifying. Schumacher called it a high-quality qualifying fight, and it's very tough to disagree. The two best drivers take turns at setting a scorching pace, finding a little more inside themselves and the car on every run. But the pole's taken once again by Ferrari. Michael Schumacher just shading Mika Häkkinen's best time by 9 thousandths of a second. So the top two on the front row, their understudies Coulthard and Barrichello behind. Button, best of the rest, alongside teammate Ralf Schumacher. Irvine and Frentzen make up row 4. Villeneuve and Herbert, row 5. The Benettons of Wirtz and Fisichella lead the arrows of De La Rosa and Verstappen. Truly a disappointing 15th ahead of the Prosts, Heidfeld and Alesi, and Zonta's BAR, and the Saubers and Minardis. They fail to make any impression and prop up the tail end. Let's get to the Japanese Grand Prix then with your commentators Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
Schumacher, Ferrari, in the background, the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen. Behind them, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Behind them, Jenson Button, you can just see his Union-flagged helmet in the background, and Ralf Schumacher. Is somebody going to make an unexpectedly good start, but in particular, can Michael Schumacher get it away?
Häkkinen's car not looking particularly healthy on the line there. Look, a lot of blue smoke coming out of the back. That could be just oil burning off of the exterior of the exhaust pipes, but that is definitely more than normal, Murray.
Yep, watch for that then. 4 lights, 5 lights of the Japanese Grand Prix. He's go, and Michael Schumacher comes straight across and drives Mika Häkkinen towards the wall. But Häkkinen's done it again. He's taken the lead as he did last year and the year before. A terrible bit of news for Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard in 3rd position, and Rubens Barrichello has been swamped, including by Eddie Irvine's Jaguar, which started in 7th position. So Häkkinen, Schumacher, Coulthard, and up has come extremely well the Williams BMW, and it looks like Ralf Schumacher in 4th position. Totally unexpected, and Mika Häkkinen has got exactly the situation that he wanted on the first lap. Michael Schumacher has got exactly the situation he didn't want. Remember what James Allen told you about fuel strategies. This could have immediately changed the Ferrari fuel strategy if Michael Schumacher was starting on a light load.
So both Ferraris then, as expected, slow off the line. Michael tried to amend that by squeezing Mika Häkkinen. He would have nothing of it, just like he would have nothing of it back at the Hungarian Grand Prix either, and streak through. But anyway, it's all calm. Michael is still in a 6-point scoring position. He can still win the championship if he finishes second to Häkkinen twice. So I don't think he'll be too distressed. He's got 4 wheels on his wagon and a whole race ahead of him, and I think he has the pace to at least stay with Häkkinen and maybe just an ounce more speed too.
And sure enough, Ralf Schumacher, a brilliant 4th place. Eddie Irvine up into 5th position. Rubens Barrichello down to 6th. Jenson Button lost 2 places, down to 7th position, and over the line, 1 lap completed, 52 laps to go. You can see them as Mika Häkkinen turns into the approach to the snake. Now, last year he pulled away and built up a comparatively rapidly 8 seconds lead over Michael Schumacher. It doesn't look to me as though he's doing that this year. Here it is again.
Yeah, so we've got an overhead look. They got away perfectly, but it's just Mika just hooked up and got more grip. Had to take to the yellow hatched zone. And there, Barrichello getting squeezed totally out, back into 6th place, so not working at all well for him. But Michael certainly activated the clutch at the right time, but just did not pick up speed. You'd have to suggest that the Ferrari is heavier on fuel, because he certainly got off the line quite well. But as we've seen so many times this year, Häkkinen is able to build speed so quickly. Look, he kills the wheel spin immediately and just gets total forward motion, and that is the net result. He's leading the Grand Prix.
So quickly did he do that, that although Michael Schumacher moved across immediately to try and impede the McLaren, he totally failed to do so. Now, here they come out of the spoon, up towards the 130R, Häkkinen, Schumacher. Now, the gap between Häkkinen and Schumacher and Coulthard, who is in 3rd place, is already some 2 seconds. The first 2 are pulling away. Now, remember, we don't know anything about fuel strategies. We're expecting them to stop twice, in which case the first stop should be round about lap 19 up to lap 22. Some way to go yet. Now, Häkkinen led by 0.8 of a second on the first lap. He's increased it to 1 second. He's obviously therefore made the fastest lap of the race. David Coulthard still there, and the Williams BMWs of Ralf Schumacher and Jenson Button, 4th and 7th places. The Jaguar of Eddie Irvine magnificently, and you can see it in the background there, holding on to that 5th place alone on the track, well ahead of Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, he was over a second a lap faster than Barrichello on the last time around, so Irvine has got some serious pace. Barrichello struggling, some 2.7 seconds slower than Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher. So Barrichello with no apparent speed. Can't see any problems. Remember, the smoke we saw coming out of the back of Häkkinen's car was clearly running hotter than it should have been. It must have been a breather pipe or something, or occasionally the exhaust can give off a smoke like that when they get to a high temperature, and therefore Häkkinen appears to have no problems at this time.
Now, if Michael Schumacher can just keep in touch, he's going to be in there with a very considerable chance. Into the pits comes Jos Verstappen, and that is a retirement. That is for sure. When they turn like that and the mechanics wheel the car backwards, that's it.
First retirement of the race then for Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows. Don't know what his problem is. I'm sure we'll find out soon from the F1 ITV pit crew. Meanwhile, back with the leaders, and Häkkinen again on this lap appears to be a couple of tenths faster than Michael Schumacher. Can he edge this lead to over 2 seconds? I think it'll be this lap or the next, and he'll clear that 2-second hurdle. A 39.9 again for him, and a 40.0 for Michael, so it's a 10th per lap now.
Well, there's no question of the fact that Michael Schumacher is not trying. He's trying, all right, but try as he may, lap by lap, metre by metre, Mika Häkkinen with perfect control and superb line in an ideally set up motor car is inching away from him. Very interesting that, because we've had 6 sessions of one kind or another up to today, including qualifying. Michael Schumacher was faster in 5 of those 6, but in the end it's Häkkinen on that superior start who's got ahead, and now he's staying ahead.
Yes, if you want to see where, how and why Häkkinen's inching away, just watch the front wheels as they go through the curbs, particularly earlier on in the lap, and even through Spoon, which is about another half a kilometre down the road from where they are now. Häkkinen hooks up with them more consistently than Michael Schumacher, and it's Schumacher, and the car's just edging away from those apex curbs where he really needs to be. Makes him have to fight the car on the exit a little bit. It's only a tiny amount. If you look hard, you can see Michael having to work harder to stay on line than Häkkinen.
Well, that's Ricardo Zonta in the white car that you're looking at. He is in 17th place, chasing Nick Heidfeld. Behind him is Pedro Diniz. Here we are back again with Mika Häkkinen, down to complete another lap. Michael Schumacher could keep him in sight, but that McLaren is slowly getting smaller and smaller. Completion of lap 11, 42 laps yet to go. There is the gap 2 seconds now. It is over 2 seconds as a result of the fact that although Michael Schumacher has gone faster than he has been before, Mika Häkkinen has just gone faster than anybody has been before, including himself, of course. A new fastest lap on lap 10, lap 11, 1:39.7, and that is some 1.5 seconds faster than Michael Schumacher's fastest lap last year. So we've got a 130-mile-an-hour lap as we ride with Rubens Barrichello in 6th position, and the car you see ahead is the green Jaguar of Eddie Irvine. So the Scarlet Ferrari cannot make up ground on Eddie Irvine, who went so well last year here in the Ferrari.
150 miles an hour now through Dunlop, and then look, the first Degner really catches you by surprise, and you just launch through it, and then take the second one much more seriously, down to 80 miles an hour, and you can lean on that green piece of concrete on the exit. And Barrichello spun off here by clipping a curb on Friday. No such problems this time around.
And out come the Jaguar mechanics into the pit lane to receive either Eddie Irvine in 5th position or Johnny Herbert, who is 9th.
Irvine coming in, peeling off then, so Irvine locking up to get down to the 120k, and he has pitted very, very early again at the end of lap 16. So Irvine then explains to a certain extent some of his pace, especially if Barrichello can go somewhat further into the race. But nonetheless, a good run, good first part of the race for Eddie Irvine.
Barrichello up into 5th place, Jenson Button back into the points, 6th position. Eddie Irvine, I'm sure Villeneuve is going to get through before him. Yes, indeed he has, because now here is De La Rosa right behind him, and he was in 11th place. There is Jacques Villeneuve. And it looks as though BAR are starting to get towards achieving their objective in this race.
Yes, and there you see Jenson Button in front of him. Last time around, the gap was just 0.6 of a second. So, and Villeneuve really closing in under braking. You always get a yo-yo effect in a hairpin like that, but clearly Villeneuve has greater pace at the moment.
Lap 17, race order, Häkkinen, 2.2 seconds, Schumacher, 13 seconds, David Coulthard, 23 seconds, Ralf Schumacher, 4th, 30 seconds, Rubens Barrichello is 5th, 32 seconds, Jenson Button, 32 seconds behind Häkkinen, that is, and not behind Barrichello, in 6th position, so just over half a minute covers the top 6, the top 7 now, because you're looking at Jenson Button in the white Williams, or you were, and Jacques Villeneuve. Here they are.
So Button only 2.1 seconds behind Barrichello. You probably saw the Ferrari flash through the foreground as they cut away to Button and Villeneuve. Over the line they go. This time it's Button that's slightly faster on that lap by a fraction of a second. Good tussle here. Button doing an amazing job through this Grand Prix weekend to qualify 5th on his first ever visit to this, one of the most demanding circuits in the world. And there's a queue coming in the pits of Vert, Salo, and then must be a Lacey behind them. So now we've had Herbert, Irvine, Vert, Trulli, Salo, Heidfeld, and Dinitz have all stopped. None of the front runners have yet stopped.
Is this going to be another disappointment for Michael Schumacher, like so many Japanese Grand Prix in the past have been? Last year, beaten by Mika Häkkinen. The year before, beaten by Mika Häkkinen in the race and the World Championship. And he's doing nothing about the flying fin ahead of him. Although the gap between Schumacher in 2nd place and Coulthard 3rd is getting bigger and bigger. 15 seconds it is now, and Coulthard himself is nearly 14 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher. Yet again, it looks as though the Williams BMW is going to finish in the points. Ralf Schumacher's had a brilliant season, 3 third places already.
Ralf has pitted, so Ralf Schumacher pits from 4th place. Barrichello will temporarily take that 4th place over. Button moves up also to 5th in that case. So Ralf in for his first scheduled stop on what is an early 2-stopper, I'd imagine.
8.3 seconds. In comes Jacques Villeneuve.
Bit of a clumsy pit entry there, not for Jacques, but just the geography of where his team are based down there really had to turn in. Others seem to have more space and they can sweep into their garage, and away goes Frentzen.
So, pouring in and pouring out thick and fast as up to lap the Benetton comes Mika Häkkinen, and out go the Ferrari crew. This is going to be the first Ferrari stop. Michael Schumacher has not been in, Rubens Barrichello has not been in. This is lap 20. The pit lane entry has been changed this year from before the chicane to after the chicane, and bang, there goes one of the Prosts. It looks like Jean Alesi to me.
And the marshal is on the wrong side. He's trying to make the cars go up the inside. That is not a happy place to be. And there is some liquid, of course, on the racetrack. I think the engine has blown on that Prost, sent him backwards across the grass. I'm sure we'll get a replay soon. And they have recovered the situation well. The track will be slippery. I believe that's turn 5 that they're through there.
It's one of the end turners in the snake. It's 5, I think, Martin. It's on the snake, definitely, out of turns 1 and 2. Another Peugeot engine gone kaput. Into the pit lane comes Rubens Barrichello from 4th position.
Well, he clearly had not got a lot of fuel on board then. He's the first Ferrari to stop, so Barrichello simply off the pace for whatever reason this afternoon. Rubens not having a happy weekend. He's had some great runs this year, but this weekend is not one of them.
Now, here is a straw for Ferrari lovers to clutch at. I offer it to you for what it's worth. As Jenson Button leaves the pits, it is that Michael Schumacher started this race on a very heavy fuel load and is struggling to keep up with Mika Häkkinen because of that. But Mika Häkkinen will come in earlier. Michael Schumacher will stay out for a long time and take the lead of the race. So think about that.
They're too close in pace for that to be the case, Murray, to be a significant difference in fuel load. It is for every 10 kilos of fuel, which is about probably 2.5 laps, it's something like 4/10 of a second, 4.5 of a second per lap. And really, I think there's the engine going, there's the Peugeot engine going, and it seizes up, locks up, and just spins Alesi around and puts him back onto the racetrack, deposits some fluid down, but nothing to do with Jean, nothing he could do about that at all. As soon as the hydraulic pressure decays, you cannot pull the clutch and release it, and if the engine seizes up, therefore, so do your rear wheels.
Bit of a bonus for Eddie Irvine, that, because Jacques Villeneuve was temporarily unsighted by that mass of white smoke. Probably had to back off a bit, and that has saved Eddie Irvine from attack from Jacques Villeneuve for a few yards. Irvine is still in 7th place, Villeneuve is 8th, 6th is Ralf Schumacher after the stops. Jenson Button is now ahead of his teammate, and they have both stopped. So Button is 5th, Ralf Schumacher is 6th. Coming up towards half distance and getting towards the end of the window for a two-stop strategy are still out on the track, not having come in. Look at the spoon. Häkkinen closing up now. He's taken Heidfeld. He's closing up on Pedro de la Rosa, who's 15th in the Arrows. And here is the first McLaren stop coming up. It'll be on lap 22 out of 53. Off the circuit goes Alex Wurz in 17th position. That's the spoon. And if you keep to the right where he is now, you're away from that very loose gravel and you can filter your way back onto the track. Very dusty motor car, but you live to fight another day.
Yes, you have to remember when you get down to 130 R2, and it's Häkkinen. It's Häkkinen, the race leader, coming in for his first stop at the end of lap 22. And here we go then, James.
Yeah, and he comes now. Watch how long that fuel hose is on for. If it's on for anything like about 8 seconds, he's putting 50 kilos of fuel in. No, it's less than that. Short stop now. Ross Brawn is bringing Michael Schumacher in next lap by, and this is where the race is going to be won and lost, guys. It's how much fuel goes in and what the middle stint of the race is going to be.
Thanks, James. 6.8 seconds. He came in with a 2-second lap, 2-second lead. Michael Schumacher, of course, is in the lead, and he knows he's got to go on this lap. He's got to try and go as fast as he possibly can and decrease the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen and rely on a perfect stop from the Ferrari people under 7 seconds, and it's going to be very close in that case when they come out to rejoin on lap 24.
Yes, Michael Schumacher wrestling the car through the Dunlop curve as we cut back to him and his car is not handling as well as Mika Häkkinen's. But remember, he missed a run in qualifying yesterday. Michael only did 3 runs. He has 3 new sets of tyres available for this race. Mika Häkkinen only has 2. But Häkkinen will use his 2 new sets in the first 2 stints. So I don't think Schumacher will be able to do too much with his 3rd set. This is a crucial pit stop for the Ferrari mechanics. They need to win this championship for a driver for the first time in 21 years, as I'm sure you've heard many times. Now he must go through the last chicane before he comes into that pit lane. It cost him about 2 seconds extra to stop this year, and Michael is in. James, are you there?
I am indeed, Martin, and I've worked out that Mika Häkkinen took on 13 laps worth of fuel, that's all. So McLaren were the ones that short-fueled the car. What are Ferrari going to do? Michael goes in, the hose goes on as well. Everything looks fairly routine to me. I haven't got a clock, I don't know if you can see one. 7.4, a tiny bit more fuel for Michael Schumacher. So how many more laps has he got? He's going to do about 14 or 15 laps, maybe.
Oh, look at this. Here comes Mika Häkkinen on the right, and he's going to get through ahead of Michael Schumacher. The status quo has been retained almost exactly. I don't know what the time gap is, but it looks like a couple of seconds, maybe a bit more, because Michael Schumacher took 7.4 seconds on his stop, stationary that is, excluding the coming in and leaving, in comparison with Mika Häkkinen 6.8. And as you can see, there are some spots of rain on the lens there. Don't forget that the possibility of rain in this race still exists, and if it happens, it could absolutely transform it.
Not much meat left on those tyres, look, and virtually down to slicks on 2/3 of the tyre there for Michael Schumacher. But Häkkinen's outlap was absolutely blistering, incredible. The fastest man through the middle section of the lap, and his fastest sector at the end of the lap to really put something special in. To be sure, he was ahead of Michael Schumacher. Schumacher, as you saw, stopped for about 0.6 of a second worth more of fuel. James is right, I think he can go a bit further. Coulthard, the leader, current leader, will have to come in on this lap by the looks of it. Eddie Irvine fighting some nasty oversteer there in the Jaguar as Villeneuve homes in on him. And here comes Coulthard now into 130R. He will pit at the end of this lap.
And should get out with no problem at all before Rubens Barrichello, who is currently in 4th place, comes through. And Irvine, as you've seen, is still ahead in the Jaguar of Jacques Villeneuve as David Coulthard comes into the pit lane. Are you there, James? No. So, David Coulthard then, how does his stop compare with Michael Schumacher 7.4, Mika Häkkinen 6.8, and will he get out before Rubens Barrichello? Well, that's the fastest of the top men we've had so far. A superb 6.6 seconds for David Coulthard. And I'm looking to see where it... Look back, and when you see a red car, well, you won't see one, because Rubens Barrichello is too far back even to appear before David Coulthard exits the pit lane. As near as makes no difference, half the Japanese Grand Prix of 2000 has been completed. Mika Häkkinen crosses the line. Now Michael Schumacher completing their 26th lap in this 53-lap race. Häkkinen is increasing his lead. He's gone up from 2.5 seconds to nearly 3 seconds. They have both stopped, as has David Coulthard, and in fact as has everybody who is still in the race. Only 2 retirements, Sean Lacey and Jos Verstappen. Coulthard still 3rd, then Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher and Jenson Button.
Yes, Häkkinen really putting the hammer down on that last lap for that 39.1. That's getting very close to the outright lap record of this circuit. So Häkkinen on a flyer, deciding this is the stage of the race where he's going to stretch it out.
As in comes Jarno Trulli for his 2nd pit stop. This is lap 29 out of 53, and Trulli was in 11th position, about 14 seconds ahead of Pedro Diniz. It's going to be a very close thing, but Pedro Diniz should certainly have moved up into that place by the end of the lap. You're watching Mika Häkkinen and Schumacher looking a lot closer. But he's not. It's still 2.1 seconds. James, news?
Yeah, so I've just worked a few things out here. Häkkinen pitted on lap 22. He's going to go through to about lap 35. I believe Schumacher can go 2 laps longer Now they're encountering traffic, and there's a lot more traffic to come. De La Rosa, Salo, Zonta, Diniz and Trulli will be encountered before the second round of pit stops. Schumacher's target, therefore, is to keep within 2 seconds of Häkkinen through all that traffic. If he can do that, he might be able to nick it at the second pit stop.
And they're scything their way through the traffic. It's amazing what a foreshortening effect television has, because Schumacher looks as though he's getting closer and closer as they come up to the hairpin.
He is, because Mika lost 0.4 of a second following the Jordan through T1. So Michael is quite a lot closer, and it must be tantalising for him. He can see that World Championship. If he can just get ahead of Häkkinen, he can take the World Championship today. And it must be so tantalisingly close for him. As James said, I think if he can really stay with Mika through this section, and he can do a couple more laps on this tank of fuel, he may just be able to get out ahead of him.
And here comes Häkkinen up to Pedro de la Rosa, 15th in the arrows. There is Michael Schumacher in second position. Will Pedro see both of them as into the pits comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen? Oh, off the track, out of the race. Frentzen retires, the third retirement of the race, and that is the 10th time in 16 races that Heinz-Harald Frentzen has retired. The bugbear of the Jordan team this year has been a lack of reliability. 10 retirements for Frentzen, and Trulli has retired 7 times as well. And a very gloomy Eddie Jordan pensively looks at the screen, because they are starting to see, as I have made clear already, the possibility of their 5th place in the Constructors' Championship disappearing, because Frentzen is certainly going to score no points. As you look down on this battle, this intriguing, continuing, non-stop battle between Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher, and the gap now was 1.1 seconds, and Schumacher is really going for it. Up to the hairpin on lap 31 out of 53. Look at this. Now, this is real excitement. Michael Schumacher has got the bit between his teeth. Mika Häkkinen knows the gap of 2.5 seconds is down to just a few car lengths.
I'm absolutely sure that there's a little bit of drizzle falling, because everybody's lapping 1.5 seconds slower than they were earlier on. I know they've got more fuel on board now, but I'm pretty sure there's just a little tiny bit of drizzle out there that's making Häkkinen quite cautious.
And keep you in touch, David Coulthard is still third, 23 seconds behind the leaders. Rubens Barrichello, a massive 44 seconds, but still fourth. Jenson Button is fifth, 50 seconds behind them. Ralf Schumacher is sixth in 54 seconds behind the leaders. But this is what the crowd is absolutely glued to watching. Over the line, 0.8 of a second. Michael Schumacher closes up on the gearbox of the McLaren Mercedes.
Now, whenever we've seen a damp track situation earlier in the year, it's always been the Ferrari that's quickest. They seem to have, despite McLaren's very well-balanced car, the Ferrari seems to thrive more, or maybe their drivers, I don't know what it is, but in these tricky conditions, it's Michael who always seems to have the upper hand, and right now, I think you're seeing exactly that.
And Häkkinen is going to come up behind Zonta, right on the hairpin. No, Zonta lets him through. Blue flag, well done. Now, is Zonta going to realise that Schumacher's behind him? Down to the...
Yeah, Zonta should just pull left and give Schumi the line. The racing... Oh, they nearly touched there. Michael cut across back in front of Zonta before he'd cleared him. And they look like the faces of Zonta's right front and Schumacher's left rear must have virtually touched.
And as a result of that, up goes the gap from 9 tenths to 1.2 seconds. Mika Häkkinen gained 0.3 of a second.
Now watch this again, see how close they get. Michael goes over to take his normal line, and Zonta's just coasting. And look, Zonta having to take to the grass virtually to stop them having an incident there. But if you notice on the cameras now, there's no more spots of rain appearing, and I think the track's beginning to dry out one more time, to be totally dry, that is, and you can see Häkkinen beginning slightly to re-establish himself.
And in comes Ralf Schumacher from 6th position for his second pit stop, and as a result of that, Villeneuve moves up into the points in the BAR, and the nearest Jordan behind him is Trulli in 14th position, because Frentzen is out of the race.
Yeah, there's gearbox problems for Frentzen apparently, or transmission I should say, to be more precise, for Frentzen, who was the third retirement of this race. So Verstappen out first with gearbox problems, Alesi with the blown engine, and Frentzen with transmission problems too.
As out come the McLaren mechanics for a second stop.
So Hakkinen is James.
Michael Schumacher takes the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix as Mika Hakkinen comes in. There's still a bit of drizzle around. McLaren would dearly love for both the two cars to have stopped at the same time. It wasn't going to be possible. A lot of discussion on the pit wall to see if they could make the fuel last. Hakkinen 7.4. These next 2 laps could well decide the Japanese Grand Prix.
And the World Championship. Michael Schumacher has got those 2 Jaguars in front of him, which will inhibit him, if not stop him, from making the searing lap that he would need to make, having taken the lead, in order to try to decrease the gap between himself and Mika Hakkinen. There we are, you see.
Yes, he's still behind both of them, Murray, so he hasn't cleared either of them yet. Irvine moves easily out of the way. Teammates from last year, of course. Eddie Irvine clears the path for Michael Schumacher. The Jaguars beginning to struggle on pace. I think Herbert had a problem last time around, and it's absolutely crucial for Michael Schumacher's chances of winning this race and this championship to clear that Jaguar before the end of the lap.
Excellent bit of flag marshalling there, the Japanese and the rain, look at that! This could, because they could bring him in now for wet tyres. Michael Schumacher could come in and change to a more appropriate tyre, because if this rain continues, the track will get wet pretty quickly. And remember that Mika Hakkinen has been in and has gone out on a new set of grooved tyres for dry track conditions. In comes Rubens Barrichello, and unless they get him out very quickly indeed, that's going to mean to say that they're not going to have Michael Schumacher's wheels and tyres ready for him.
I think Michael might have another lap left. Yeah, remember James did the calculations. We think Michael could go probably 2 laps longer, but we'll have to wait and see. But there is only one tyre choice at the moment, and that is slicks. There is no other option at all. It makes no sense to be on anything else. You'll be so slow, you'll trash them in 2 or 3 laps, so you may as well come in yet again if you have to, would be the right decision.
Here comes the race leader. We know that the Ferrari mechanics are out in the pit lane. I'm looking through the window at them as I talk to you. Down to the chicane. This is going to be the crucial stop that decides it. And he dodges a spun Benetton, that of Alex Wurz, down in 18th position as the 2 Jaguars go by.
Now here's the pit stop, James.
Yes, he's made half a second on Hakkinen on this lap. He had a 26.8 second lead. I think it's going to be enough, guys. If this stop is anything, yes, it's definitely going to be enough. He's going to do it.
I think you're right.
Hakkinen has not gone through. There is the McLaren going through the chicane. Look for it as here comes Michael Schumacher rejoining the track, and he's ahead of Mika Hakkinen. The horns blow because they're as keen on Ferrari in Japan as they are in most other countries. There is a sea of Ferrari flags and red hats here. They want Schumacher to win. He's now on lap 41 out of 53, looking good for his 8th win of the year, which would make him world champion for the 3rd time. But let's not count any Ferrari chickens before they are hatched. There are still 12 laps to go.
So Schumacher leads Hakkinen. Coulthard 40 seconds down the road. Barrichello 4th. Jenson Button still in 5th. Ralf Schumacher in 6th. We're going to take a short break. Be back.
Ralf Schumacher spins out of the Japanese Grand Prix and 6th position. Jacques Villeneuve moves up in the BAR for that single point which could take the BAR team ahead of Jordan in the Constructors' Championship. This is what happened.
Yes, he put a wheel up on the white line, ran in too deep into 1 and spins off before ever arriving into 2. Very close up behind the Minardi, and another mistake there for Ralf Schumacher.
Lap 47 coming up out of 53 at Suzuka. And if you root for McLaren, get on your knees and pray. If you root for Ferrari, do the same thing. Because Michael Schumacher is leading Mika Hakkinen by a decreased gap. It's come down from 5 seconds to 4.3 seconds. Mika Hakkinen's last lap was 0.4 of a second faster than Michael Schumacher. The Finn can only attack now, throw caution to the winds, really go for it. He's got nothing to lose. Michael Schumacher coming up to lap the Jaguar in front of him, which will hopefully move over and let him through. It looks like Eddie Irvine's car, the man who was his teammate last year. But Michael Schumacher, at the moment, at the rate they are going and the number of laps they've got, obviously, but he moves through on the inside at the hairpin.
Yes, and the reason he's moving past the Jaguars again, of course, is he's made a pit stop since he passed them last time around, where you lose about 25 seconds. So Michael having to repass both Jaguars, the first one of them down, and Johnny Herbert about 3 seconds down the road. And there's the sign that says it all. It's lap 6 to go, plus 4.3 seconds from Hackey.
Well, once again, we're seeing that McLaren and Ferrari, who between them have scored 73% of the World Championship points which are available so far, are dominating the race. Their 4 drivers are in the first 4 places, which means to say that, in effect, all the rest of them, the other 18 drivers, are trying to win a race by taking 5th position. And the man who's doing that is Jenson Button. And this is the first time he's driven at Suzuka, which is a driver's circuit. So he's effectively leading Division 2, if you like. And he's leading Division 2 by a commanding 20 seconds from Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR. Yet again, the Canadian is going to be in the points. He's had a lot of 4th places this year, and he's had 5th positions as well. He's going to have a 6th position in this race as Michael Schumacher comes round the 130R, down to the chicane again to complete his 49th lap.
Well, it would have to rain quite hard for them to be worth coming in for a set of wets. It's certainly not looking like that at the moment. But I think with the time left, the laps available, they'd just have to somehow scamper around. But if it really bucketed down, it would be worth coming in for a set of wets. Otherwise, you can fall off the road so easily. Genet there, I would think he's broken down rather than anything else. And Michael Schumacher in to turn 1 for the 50th lap.
Lapping 4.5 seconds slower than the fastest lap we've had so far, that of Mika Häkkinen on lap 26, 1 minute 39.2, and that is some 2 seconds faster than the fastest lap we had last year.
Let me just remind you how Michael Schumacher got in the lead of this race. Poor start. Mika Häkkinen took the lead despite Schumacher trying to squeeze him out down the right-hand side of the road. And then he just stayed with him. They within a couple of seconds. Looked like Häkkinen had a bit more pace in the beginning. And at the first of their 2 scheduled stops, Ferrari put in more fuel. Schumacher could then run 2 laps further, and in those 2 laps, he was faster than Mika Häkkinen. He came in 0.9 behind Häkkinen, and he made up nearly 5 seconds because of a great stop by the Ferrari team, 6.0 seconds. And he was quicker in those 2 crucial laps by another 4 seconds over Mika Häkkinen, and that is why the Scarlet Ferrari is running at the front of the field now by 5.8 seconds. It seems like Häkkinen has probably given up the chase.
Coming up to the 130R and the chicane again to complete 51 laps, to start his 52nd and last lap but one. That's
how slippery it's getting. It's so difficult to hear the throttle because the Japanese director leaves another system open somewhere. You can hear all sorts of engine noises, but Michael Schumacher there getting a nasty wobble on the exit of 130R, and that will surprise him. That'll give him a bit of a wake-up call too, because you would not normally expect the car to be out of shape there.
Remember how he had that wake-up call at Indianapolis when he actually spun as he was coming in the closing laps of the race and managed to recover it. James, what's your news?
Murray, it's unbelievable. The Ferrari mechanics have got their hands together as if they're in prayer. They're 2 laps away from the dream. And the man who's most uncomfortable of all is Willy Weber, Michael Schumacher's manager. Not only does he stand to make hundreds of millions of dollars if this comes off, I'm told, of course, 2 times he made some Michael Schumacher World Champion caps, and both times Schumacher failed to win the championship. This time I just asked him, where are the caps, Willy? He said, this year we didn't make no caps.
Well, let me tell you this. If Michael Schumacher wins this race, and he's not far off starting his last lap, it will not just be down to Michael Schumacher. Formula One is a team event. it will be down to a lot of other people. Luca Di Montezemolo, the boss of Ferrari, who has supported them through thick and thin. Jean Todt, the little Frenchman, who is the team manager, who has led the Ferrari revival. Ross Brawn, the English technical director, who has done a fantastic job in terms of not only developing the cars, but race strategies. And by no means least, South Africa's Rory Byrne, who sits patiently in Italy, and we very seldom see him at races. The man who designed the winning Benettons for Michael Schumacher when he was double world champion, and has now designed the winning Ferraris. The wind tunnel experts at Maranello, all the people in Italy who produce these magnificent motor cars. And Formula One will rejoice, the world will rejoice if Ferrari wins it. They richly deserve to.
I can see a national holiday in Italy coming up at the end of this flying lap if Michael Schumacher keeps it all pointing in the right direction. And certainly no sign of any further heavier rain. So Michael then with about 3.5 miles to go to his third Formula One World Championship.
Can they believe it? Out come the Ferrari mechanics to greet home their ultimate hero, Michael Schumacher. The Japanese are following the Germans here with their air horns and giving it lots and lots of welly, the maximum amount of noise. You are about to see Germany's Michael Schumacher in Italy's Ferrari become world champion.
Häkkänen's just done the fastest first sector of the race. Häkkänen, the gap down to 4.2. He will not let Michael Schumacher relax and enjoy. Look, in the background there's not enough time for him to do anything, but he's going to keep Michael honest all the way to the checkered flag. Michael's starting to coast because he does not want to push his luck on this tricky, slimy racetrack, and Häkkinen is saying, right, I'm going to make you really work all the way to the line. But I don't think Häkkinen has enough time left. Clearly, he does not have enough time left to spoil Michael Schumacher and Ferrari's party.
But it shows what a worthy double world champion Mika Häkkinen is. He refuses to give up. A magnificent race for Häkkinen, a superb race for McLaren, but a brilliant race for Michael Schumacher, who exits the chicane for the 53rd and last time to win the 2000 Japanese Grand Prix and the World Championship for the third time, to give Ferrari and Italy their dream. And look, he knows it. He is absolutely beside himself with joy. He contained himself. You heard Martin say how nervous he was at the beginning of the race, but his ultimate dream has been succeeded. He can now let the emotion flood, and when he gets out of this car, he will be out of the cockpit, over to the mechanics to greet them and thank them for everything they've done. Well, the floodgates have broken for Ferrari. It's a well-deserved victory.
So Michael Schumacher, the new world champion, and now with 3 wins, the most successful driver in the history of the Japanese Grand Prix. Mika Häkkinen losing his title once again. The championship is decided in Suzuka.
First World Championship for Ferrari for 21 years. You're one of the architects of it. Tell us what it means to you and to this team.
Well, personally, it's why I came to Ferrari, to do this. So I've achieved my dream, and so has everyone else in the team. Brilliant
day, Ross. Well done.
You can't win every World Championship. You know, we've won a few. It would have been nice to be in contention for the last race, but on the day, you know, it's not about this race, it's about all of them.
Lost the race, but I won the championship a couple of times, so I'm not too upset about it. I think, you know, the one says to be a good winner, you have to be a good loser, you know.
You and Mika Häkkinen have had a lot of races like that where you've been nose to tail over the years. Is that the hardest you feel that the pair of you have ever had to push?
I'd say yes, honestly. I mean, we've had very good races in the past, but I mean here and then it's for the championship. I guess we haven't had any harder races in our championship career together.
Schumacher's 12-point advantage means he's home and dry. Häkkinen pushing him all the way. Coulthard looking set for third, ahead of Barrichello. The younger Schumacher and Fisichella unchanged. So Ferrari in great shape to retain the Constructors' title. McLaren will hope to respond in Malaysia. Williams, well, they're effectively third, barring a Benetton miracle at Sepang, where BAR and Jordan will conclude their private scrap. OK then, Tony, Michael Schumacher has won it, but he made it hard for himself with that start, didn't he?
He was very nervous before the start of this race. He knew everything was on this race. And here we are, his worst nightmares coming true here as he makes a very bad start, has to move across in front of his teammate Barrichello and almost taking out his brother there, Ralf Schumacher, who made a great start. And in the meantime, Häkkinen really brilliant start. Look at this, it's a zig, it's not a zigzag, it's one move across, but he squeezes Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen keeps on his line, puts in that brilliant start there, and the conditions were to be in favour of Ferrari.
The zig OK, is it?
The zig is OK. One move, not two moves. Zigzag, not.
They battled all the way, didn't they? And then Ricardo Zonta had a moment that could even have cost Michael Schumacher the race.
Well, you know, Michael said we'll attack from the start. He was prepared to take risks. And like his squeeze on Coulthard, Indianapolis, from 200 miles an hour, you almost see the pips coming out. You almost see the pips coming out of Zonta, but shades of Austria there. Zonta had ran into the back of Michael Schumacher. Hearts must have been in their mouths in the Ferrari pit on that one.
Well, you mentioned the Ferrari pits. Brilliant work, both by Ferrari and McLaren. It all boiled down, didn't it, to the second pit stop. And a tricky old moment for Michael Schumacher going into it.
Yeah, because he'd been building up to the pit stop and he'd got to get the hammer down, which he'd done. He'd had to go past two Jaguars. There he is going on his in-lap, and there's Wirtz spun in front of him. A Benetton right across his path, so he had to skid to one side of that, then getting into this stop. But the well-drilled Ferrari boys, there they are, putting in the brilliant stop. And, of course, it's damp out of the back of the track. Schumacher had been making ground already, and from this, the in-lap where he'd done well and the out-lap, plus they'd stayed out for a couple of laps more because of that extra fuel from the first stop, meant they had the edge. But I have to say the conditions, lovely for Michael Schumacher. A bit greasy on the top surface, where this guy wanted to win. He wanted to wrap it up in Suzuka, and he did in fabulous style.
It's going to be a heck of a night going on at this moment, I would think, at Maranello, where 30,000 of them watch the race on a big screen. Just finally, Tony, your assessment of Michael Schumacher and what this result means to the world of motor racing.
Well, after nearly 5 years of toil, he's achieved it, his holy grail, obviously sticking with Ferrari. For the whole of motorsport worldwide, this is great. First time in 21 years they've done it. It's just fantastic, it's brilliant.
And he's won 8 races this season.
Yes, he's won 8 races, and that makes him the highest number of winners for Ferrari since Ascari, 52-53. It was 7, the previous record, so more history for Michael Schumacher.
Thanks, Tony. And here's your complete Suzuka rundown. Michael Schumacher becomes a triple world champion. Häkkinen posting the fastest lap as he hands over his crown. Third equals Coulthard's best at Suzuka. Barrichello, well, he's having his best season ever. Button, very impressive in his penultimate drive for Williams. Villeneuve scoring a precious point for BAR. Both Jaguars, Herbert and Irvine, firmly in the top 10. Zonta, well, he gave Schumacher a real scare. Salo, the first Sauber home, followed by teammate Deniz. Then De La Rosa, Trulli 13th, that's disappointing. So is 14th for Fisichella. Mazzacani, the last official finisher. Genet's engine failed, Ralf Schumacher spun off. Heidfield's rear suspension, that went. Wirtz, another spinner. Transmission failure for Frentzen. Alace's Prost blew in spectacular fashion. A faulty gearbox finished for Verstappen in the orange arrows. In a couple of weeks, it is all over in Malaysia, qualifying 11:45 on the Saturday morning. Race coverage starting 7:45 on Sunday, the rerun at 2:10, and highlights just before midnight. What a weekend it has been for German sport. Triumphs at Wembley and at Suzuka. We salute Michael Schumacher, champion of the world for the 3rd time. Good night to you all.